It's our NBA panel today. It's DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow and Kenny Ducey. These two guys are here to chase your fade a little bit in the NBA. So are we going to agree or disagree with the following DFS plays or bets ahead of tonight's Clippers-Suns Game 3? Let's keep in mind here, too, Chris Paul, who's been out because of COVID-19 protocols. He intends to make his return against the Clippers, officially considered probable. But up to this point, they haven't really needed him. So Suns center DeAndre Ayton was the hero in Game 2, that last second Deuce dropping the slam dunk. And he was also the highest scoring fantasy player with 48 TK fantasy points. Chaser fade, Jules. He's got to be your captain in Game 3.
He's a little pricey to captain. I still think with Kawhi Leonard being off the floor, you want to maybe try and use some of the Clippers value that is there. And then that allows you to use multiple of whatever you want, Paul George, Booker, Chris Paul, if you like him to come back strong, along with Ayton. So for me, you look and the Clippers changed their lineup too. So, Morris is banged up. He's expensive. Batum, way overpriced for a guy coming off the bench now that wasn't even productive when he was starting. Terrence Mann caught lightning in a bottle. Now he's back to a bench role. So you look at the last game, even with Reggie Jackson kind of being the second highest usage player on the Clippers right now, Beverly played 26 minutes, knocked down some threes. Rondo was pretty effective. Both of those guys are under 5,000. I would probably captain a cheap Clipper and then load up on stars.
And so he's 13.5 in the captain spot here, Deuce. That too expensive for you?
It is, yeah. And I mean, look, if I'm gonna captain, I'm gonna pay money. I think I agree with Julian that I could get interested in some of these other Clippers, but yeah, I mean, I think I would rather just pay up for Paul George all the way because I really do think that there's enough value here. Maybe a guy like a Luke Kennard or like a Rondo, as he mentioned. I just think there's a lot of value on this slate, so it won't hurt you that much really to pay all the way up because I don't think you really want Chris Paul. We don't really understand what his role is going to be or how much he's going to play or how good he's going to look and having not played in a while. Same thing with Devin Booker. Now, maybe he's less of a playmaker, he gets, fewer numbers in the other stat categories. I think the safest option here really is just to pay all the way up for Paul George again. 35% usage rate in Game 2, 36% in Game 1. Like, this is the only guy on the slate. It's a confusing slate, really. The only guy I'm sure is going to take a ton of shots. He's going to be on the floor for 40 minutes. And I do think that there's so much upward mobility here. I think we saw his floor in Game 2, and it was 41 fantasy points. And I think he's going to he's going to rise back up here to the mid 50s, the 60s that we've seen him at. Just the fact that he shot so poorly, that little weird landing on his shoulder, like a little concerning for me. I feel like that's why he missed those free throws at the end. He just wasn't the same. But, barring any sort of scare before the game, I think that he should be totally fine to just fire up in your captain spot.
Well, Ducey, how about Ivica Zubac? More love for a center here. He provided some great value in Game 2. Went for north of 30 DK fantasy points and was just 4.6 in the flex. He gets a big salary bump for Game 3, costing you $5,200 in the utility spot. So I want you to chase this dude. He will provide value once again tonight, or fade him in favor for another option. I see you already shaking your head. No, it sounds like a fade.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking Zubac. Like, this is a guy that just consistently has been underwhelming from a fantasy perspective all postseason long. And Ty Lue, you got to remember, the first 2 games of a series, Ty Lue, he kind of took after LeBron, who he coached for a little while, right? He kind of feels out the opponent. He experiments. Like we saw in the Utah series, he played a lot of Boogie Cousins in the first couple of games. He did that here again in Game 1, like Rondo as well. And then Rondo just went to the bench in that Utah series in favor of Pat Beverly. And speaking of, I think that that's a guy that I'm really willing to still fire up here, despite the fact that he is $3,200. Look, I don't think that Rondo is really going to be the answer for the Clippers. I don't think that Ty Lue intends to use him for all of these games, nor do I think that Zubac really is going to be the, intended to use all these. I think that Zubac had a great game too, but I don't think that he's like going to be a guy all series long that gets minutes. I think that the Clippers will decide to go small. If DeAndre Ayton decides to cook them again, maybe things change. Maybe he puts in Boogie Cousins though. But yeah, I think that Beverly here, I think we saw in Game 2 really what he's going to be able to do. I think that he's going to be playing minutes, 25, 30 minutes a game. I think that Rondo's going to see a little bit of a dip in minutes. And when this guy's out here, I know that he's committing fouls, he's getting in foul trouble, but it's undeniable, really, the rebounding, the steals, like he just does add value for you in those categories. And at $3,200, all you really want is 15 points. And I do think that he has the upside to go get you 20. And that's really what I'm looking for in a value play. If I can lock in 5X, I'm doing it. I think that's Beverly.
Jules, Chase Zubats will provide value once again tonight, or fade him in favor of another option.
Yeah, this is pretty black and white for me. If he starts like he did in game 2 and played 34 minutes, then I will chase him. If the Clippers make another adjustment, as Ty Lue has been doing, and shift the starting lineup around again, then I will fade him. So if he's coming off the bench, his minutes are obviously going to go down. Like, look how much Nick Batum suffered switching to the bench role in game 2. If he starts as a guy to, have a body consistently on Ayton, which I think the Clippers might need, even though Ayton had a better game too, then I'm definitely interested. Over 30 DraftKings points in 34 minutes in game 2. So simply comes down to if he starts or not for me.
All right, this one is essentially a pick 'em, Jules. So chase or fade the Clippers at -103 on the money line. Get back into the series and win the game.
Oh, man. So the Clippers have gone down 0-2 both times, won game 3 both times, and obviously won the series both times. So they've been in this position, this spot. Like, I think Kenny and I did game 3 of Suns Nuggets together on the show, and I said how that spot screamed Nuggets and then told you that I'm betting the Suns. This spot screams Clippers, and I'm betting the Suns. Game 2 was the one that the Clippers had to get. And if we're being honest, the officials kind of gift wrapped it for him late. All the reviews, Paul George at the line to go up 3, and then the Suns probably miss a 3 and we're 1-1 headed back to LA. The Clippers blew their chance. The Suns are going to get a spark with Chris Paul coming back. Cam Payne's going to be an even better third guard off the bench now with the confidence he's gotten in Chris Paul's absence. It feels like this should be 2-1. But it feels like it should be 2-1 after this game because the Clippers stole game 2 in Phoenix. I really like the Suns tonight, honestly.
Kenny, what do you think? Chase your fade here.
Yeah, we are talking about historical picks. So we were both on the Suns in that game, and they obviously won. I was on the Suns every time. I was on the Clippers to win both series. And I'm on the Clippers here. I know that it doesn't make a lot of sense, but frankly, I mean, what about this Clippers run has made any sense? They were in game 1 and game 2. They had a good chance to win both of those games, and that was without Kawhi Leonard. Now I realize, obviously, Chris Paul comes back. That's going to add a huge amount on the defensive end. That Suns defense did look like its normal self. But I'll continue to preach here that the Clippers offense, look at their efficiency rating. It's really been the same like almost every game. Like, this has been probably the most consistent team in the postseason with or without Kawhi Leonard. They've just continued to do what they do. They've continued to shoot the ball. Well, yeah, they saw a little bit of a dip in game 2, 38%, still really good. This is the number 1 3-point shooting team in the regular season. And if they can shoot the 3 well all season long, why can't they do it tonight? If they can shoot the 3, they're in any game. We saw that against the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz, they had Donovan Mitchell, they had Rudy Gobert, they had Bogdanovich, they had all these weapons. They still fell short. The Clippers just outscored them. I think that the Clippers can do that here to the Suns, a Suns team that really all season long, their offense was hot and cold. It's hot right now. But I think that the Clippers have the ability to rise up and get hotter. And I think that they can win this game because, again, they've got Paul George. He's having his Jimmy Butler moment. He had a bad game too, and they still almost won. Now, if he gets back to his normal self here, Chris Paul, it balances it out. I could see a world where the Clippers win this game, and I do think that they do that. I believe in Ty Lue that much.
Kenny, really quick here. Give me a prop bet you're chasing.
Yeah, Devin Booker under 4.5 assists. Look, he really has been under this all postseason long. Last 2 games, 11 assists, 5 assists. That's because Chris Paul was out. He was asked to be more of the facilitator, and I just don't see that happening here with Paul back. Even if he only plays limited minutes, I still think that you're really teetering on the edge here, and it's Booker under 4.5 assists.
Go ahead, Jules.
Yeah, I do like kind of shorting Booker in some way with Chris Paul returning. I'll look to the Clippers a little bit. I was hoping that we would maybe get something on Terrence Mann and Nick Batum, who were shifted to the bench. I liked their unders a lot in game 2, and they both cashed. So I've just been kind of waiting to the last minute, hoping those come up, and they haven't. So one other thing that I would potentially look at is Marcus Morris under 11.5 points or under on the 3-way prop. he came out kind of hot in game 2, and I thought I was going to lose that one, and then just didn't play much at the end, didn't play well early in the second half. I think the knee is a legitimate thing with him. So I'll look maybe to find some Clippers unders, and with what's available right now, it would be Marcus Morris.
Also, guys, real quick before we wrap up this segment, news just coming down. Looks like Rick Carlisle will be returning to the Pacers. Yes, some breaking news. Burp, 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 burp. Feels like a big-time commitment here, reportedly 4 years, around $29 million. Jules, how do you feel about this hire and being back with the Pacers, who he had success with like a decade and a half ago?
Yeah, it's a good hire. Rick Carlisle is a good coach. Indy made a huge mistake going away from Nate McMillan, who is getting the absolute most out of this Atlanta Hawks team right now and coaching out of his mind. Massive turnaround in Atlanta to, go into kind of an analytics nerd that tanked that team away. So they needed a good hire, a real basketball coach, a respected basketball coach, a guy that's been around, a guy that's won. And they got that. So big win for the Pacers, who should have a pretty good bounce back year if they can stay healthy next year.
Kenny, how nice of a fit is this? Do you see it as a good fit?
Yeah, I really like this fit a lot. I'm with Julian here. And look, you look at the Pacers roster, they've got a lot of young talent here. Goga Bitadze had a nice season, kind of filling in for Sabonis, who it was an all-star again. So, they have a nice little core there with Brogdon. They drafted Aaron Holiday. They're in the lottery this year. So it makes a lot of sense to sign a coach for 4 years, let Rick Carlisle implement a system there. And he did great work with the Mavericks. I really think that he's a fantastic coach. And it's one of those situations, an Andy Reid situation, where sometimes it's just time to move on. Obviously, things are fracturing in Dallas. So it's a great time to be in the coaching market. And the Pacers managed to swallow up a really good one. So I'm excited to bet some Pacers overs next year. I think they're going to really surprise some people. Maybe a playoff run is in the cards.